So there it is. There it is again. There it is again. Again, and again, and again, and again. I'm going to try to keep my composure here and try to maintain the mentality I want to have throughout the season, and that is I'm not getting too high on this team, not putting all my eggs in this basket, because if you're a Bills fan, especially us older Bills fans, you know that a night like tonight happens way too often. Way too often we see this type of result. I mean, it's just the first game of the season. Buffalo has won many games on prime time and looked amazing. So it's not like this happens every single time. But this is a Bills type of loss. There are too many factors involved here that make this loss that much more bitter. Shouldn't have been a loss at all. Shouldn't have been a loss. There's no way we lose this game when Aaron Rodgers goes down after the fourth play of the game. If you're like me, as soon as you saw Rodgers on the turf, you're like, this game's done. I'm sure all of us, at least in our minds, said this game's over. This game is over. We won this game. I said it out loud watching the game with my kid. I said, this game's over. The Bills are going to win this thing. The game was over. There's no way Zach Wilson comes off the bench and beats us. And he didn't beat us at all. We know where the blame belongs. Specifically, our anointed one, Josh Allen, who had, it's not like he had, obviously he had a bad game, but it's not like he was 12 of 32 for 112 yards and 3 interceptions. He was completing balls downfield. He was hitting receivers. He had his moments. He just, at crucial times, he made bad decisions. The first interception I didn't have a problem with. He chucked it long. He tried to get something. I'm okay with that. Even the second one that he chucked long to Stephon Diggs, he overthrew it and was intercepted. The third interception definitely put the ball in the wrong spot. And from what I understand, Stephon Diggs was open, like over the middle of the field. So Josh isn't seeing the field. And a couple times at least, I saw Josh just hanging out of the ball when there was a receiver there who could get him some positive yards, like on second down or first down. And he decided, I'm playing hero ball and I'm going to get something bigger. And that's where he gets into all kinds of trouble. And obviously, you can see his mentality, which we all appreciate. His like, go get him. I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to go out and win mentality. It's a good one to have, but you also have to be tempered, and you also have to know, like Kenny Rogers says, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. Josh Allen doesn't know exactly when to run or when to hurdle people. when he's trying to hurdle a couple linebackers 5 yards short of a first down, and he's trying to look, he's trying to get another highlight play for his resume. It's just, he's making bad decisions. Josh Allen, though, is not the sole reason why we lost this game. There's going to be a lot of talk over the next week about Sean McDermott calling the defense. Ken Dorsey's going to come up a lot. I thought Ken Dorsey, from what I could tell, called a pretty good game, but the one play the Bills ran over and over and over again that you and I were just wanting to punch the TV over is that little delay handoff to James Cook for 1 yard. How many times did they do that? It had to be at least 8 times. The first 4 times it didn't work, they should have gotten away from that. But then they tried it in overtime on first and 15. They lost to the New York Jets with Zach Wilson at quarterback. It was just like the first game of the season last year in New York. That final was 20-17. This was not unlike that. Listen, the Jets have a legit defense. The Bills probably face the best defense that they're going to face this season. That would be my guess. Of course, they got to face them again. But they were up against it on offense. But if you are a top-tier team, if you are a team that's striving for a Super Bowl, you go up against a top defense and you beat them. You beat them with your play calling. You beat them with your execution. You don't have a guy like Spencer Brown on the offensive line starting that's getting knocked around, false starts. I don't know what the deal is with that guy because he looked promising the first year with the team, but I don't know if it's injuries, his back is bothering him. I don't know, but there was one play, we all saw it, where he was driven 10 yards back. I mean, it looked like me out there, quite honestly. I would have at least turtled into a shell and tripped the guy with my body. He just got absolutely blasted. So it was right there. The opportunity for a memorable ending to that game with Tyler Bass hitting that field goal, and it bounced in. It's like, hey, this is going to be a game that, the football gods favor us. When that ball hit the upright and just deflected in, I was like, this is our game. And then we win the coin toss. And if you're like me, it's like, all right, finally, we won the coin toss. Although I said to my son, when we won that coin toss, I almost wish we had lost it. Because obviously you got to take the ball when you win a coin toss. If the Jets had started overtime with Zach Wilson, I think the Bills win that game. Because I don't think Zach Wilson would have been able to handle the pressure of overtime. And I think the Bills would have made the play. But, it's all what ifs now. It's all what ifs. And I'll tell you what, the most disappointing, besides Allen, I wouldn't say the most disappointing aspect of this game after Allen and the fact that we couldn't beat a Rodgerless team is our run defense. What is going on with that? Even when the Bills knew that the Jets had to run the ball, they were still gashing us for 6, 7, 8, 10-yard runs. They came up and made some big stops. And I'm going to talk about some of the bright spots of this game here in a minute. But I would have one take, and then I want to hear what you guys are saying in the chat. If Aaron Rodgers, it looks like everybody's speculating he's lost for the season. If this Jets team had a competent, I wouldn't even say an MVP caliber quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, but just, type of quarterback you would expect Aaron Rodgers to be. If the Jets lose Aaron Rodgers, if they lose him, they're going to be saying what if the entire season, because this team is not going to the Super Bowl with Zach Wilson. They're probably not going to the playoffs with Zach. Well, I'll tell you what, the Jets, with the defense that they have, they could be the 2000 Baltimore Ravens when they had Trent Dilfer. So that's still out there. They still have a shot. Unbelievably bad luck for the New York Jets. That was just unreal. That was unreal when that happened. So let's get to the chat here, see what you guys are saying. We're all going to commiserate together. Big J early on said Allen lost the game. Yeah, you can't argue that. When you have 4 turnovers, that fumble, once again, he fumbles the ball. I mean, I think it's natural for him to pick it up and try to make a play out of it, but he did not secure the ball like he could have, should have. John Dowdy, what's up, buddy? Good to see you again. Bad decisions by Allen. No doubt about it. I mean, we're going to get to I'm going to look at the stat line here in a second. It's not like, it's hard to say, like, he had good parts of the game, and then he just did his Josh Allen stuff. So Dowdy also says that the second half was just bad. Nice last drive to tie it up. Yep. Second half, they got 3 points. That the last field goal that they got to send it in overtime was the only 3 points they got in the second half, which is just pathetic. It's just pathetic. I don't care how good the Jets defense is. The Bills only needed one more field goal, honestly, down the stretch there to put that game away, and just couldn't muster any offense. Ooh, Cowgirl choke. Well, the Bengals, Chiefs, and Bills are 0-1. Again, it is the first game of the season. I mean, it's a knee-jerk reaction to just, start thinking that this game is emblematic of how things are going to go the rest of the year. We're going to blow the Raiders out, and we're all going to be back on that Bills bandwagon again. But what a disgusting way to start the season. Wowza says that Josh Allen is regressing quickly. Not saying he is regressing quickly, but he is regressing from his 2020 campaign where he just looked lights out. He has definitely been taking steps backwards. And my personal opinion is a lot of these guys get paid. They get their big payday, and it's kind of like, how much do they really have to work in life anymore? Josh Allen's a competitor, and I know he wants to be the best that he can be. But I don't think he has a Tom Brady mentality. I don't think that most quarterbacks or professional athletes in general have a Tom Brady mentality. But I also don't think that Josh Allen has a Peyton Manning mentality or a Drew Brees mentality. I think he's more along the lines of Phillip Rivers and how Phillip Rivers approached the game. Love the game, love to compete, but I don't think Josh Allen is the type of professional athlete that is completely willing to sacrifice it all off the field to get better. I know he works on his stuff, and he wouldn't be in the NFL, and he wouldn't be touted as one of the top quarterbacks in the league if he didn't do some work. But at this level, I mean, you have to go above and beyond. And hey, listen, he's spending a lot of time doing DirecTV commercials and Gillette shave commercials, and he's enjoying the limelight, and he's on TMZ, and that's got to distract from his game some way, somehow. And he's got to decide, especially after tonight, how good he wants to be, quite honestly. Spears says he's on his couch crying. I'm done crying over this team, but I grieve inside for sure. Wowza said that we deserve to lose. Hey, you know what? I think you're right. I think this is a good loss to have to start the season. But let's see what happens with Stephon Diggs now. Is Stephon Diggs going to have a tantrum? Because he was not targeted in the second half until the end. And I just don't get it. I don't get why Josh Allen, I think he thinks that somehow, some way, Stephon Diggs is pulling coverage away and that these other guys should be open. Just throw it to Stephon Diggs. I like the fact that he threw it deep to Stephon Diggs on that one play that was intercepted. I'm okay with that one. I'm okay with the the deep passes that were intercepted because we were going for it. The third interception is what bothers me the most in that fumble. So Dan says since Dable left, Josh Allen has been regressing. 100% agree. 100%. Although Dable looks terrible yesterday, it doesn't look like he's helping. He's helping Daniel Jones out in New York. Well, as it continues to say, I fear that by the end of the season, he will barely be a top 5 quarterback. A lot of people aren't really high on the Bills this year, and it all begins with Josh Allen. So you could be right. A couple more comments here. After this game, I went from 12 wins to 10-11. Well, that's good math. If you thought that the Bills were going to win this game, to drop it by a loss or add a loss and take away a win. So Dan says they might have knocked us out of the playoffs. We can beat them in Buffalo and look at how good Miami is. Yes, first game, but AFC is tough. Yeah, I mean, we could look back on this schedule at the end of the year, this loss. We can look back on this loss at the end of the year and say that was it. That was the one game that made the difference between us winning the division, getting home field advantage or not. Jason says Josh Allen is not the reason we lost. I say he's not the only reason. He's definitely a reason why the Bills lost. He made some bad decisions, missed some open receivers. The game is real fast. It's hard to say whether or not, those receivers would have caught the ball, but were in the right position. I would have to say that I would honestly have to say that Allen really needs to take what the defense gives him. And he doesn't do that. He can't do that. He does it sometimes, but not enough. And a quarterback, again, like I mentioned, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. Tom Brady would have sliced this Jets team up. He would have definitely had, it would have been tough, but he would have found any receiver that was open, made sure they got the ball. And the final thing that really, really drove me crazy was those run plays to James Cook when it was so obvious that Jets defensive line was not going to get beat off the ball, and they got to Cook every time. So why we kept handing the ball off to him and in overtime is beyond me. All right, so Diggs had a great game, 10 receptions, 102 yards, and a touchdown. Yes. And so let's look at the stat line. You guys have seen it already, I'm sure. Again, Josh Allen did not have overall a horrible game, 29-41. So he had 12 incompletions. With the amount of pressure he faced, that was decent. He had the one really nice touchdown pass. 2 of those 3 interceptions, to me, I'm not too aggravated about. The one interception was bad where he threw it short to Davis out in the flat. And then, of course, that fumble really killed us. I mean, that was it. That fumble, and then the Jets go in. And that's, I believe, where they took the lead, 16-13. But Josh Allen took them down the field and was able to get him into field goal range and give Tyler Bass the opportunity to tie it, which he did. So, Josh Allen overall, I would give him like a C- on the game, considering the defense he faced. James Cook was a disappointment, 12 carries for 46 yards. Only a disappointment because I don't think he was set up for success. I think they could have really had him coming out of the backfield, catching some passes, which of course is what we think James Cook is supposed to do. But he was not utilized, I think, correctly. Latavius Murray only carried the ball 2 times. Damian Harris got 1 carry. Stephon Diggs again, the big production. He had the most production, 10 receptions, 102 yards, and a touchdown. Dalton Kincaid had 4 catches for 26 yards, and he looked good making the catches. Back on the defense now, Terrell Bernard looks like he struggled a little bit out there. The defensive line, they got after both Aaron Rodgers and they got off after Zach Wilson. I thought they played well. I thought Ed Oliver had a decent game. The guy I liked the most on the Bills defense was Leonard Floyd. I felt like Leonard Floyd is going to be a difference maker for the Bills on the defensive side of the ball. Greg Rousseau looked like he had a pretty good game. He was getting in on the pass rush. The biggest disappointment for me, and it's probably for you guys too, was Tre'Davious White. He missed a couple key tackles, one specifically on that 80-something yard run by Breece Hall. He was right there and just missed the tackle. There was another run, I think, by Breece Hall also that Tre'Davious White missed the tackle on. And then, of course, that really nice catch in the end zone by Garrett Wilson. It was on Tre'Davious White. Tre'Davious White was in a pretty good position, but, Garrett Wilson just totally had Tre'Davious White for lunch on that play. And then having lunch with Stephon Diggs on Sauce Gardner. Stephon Diggs absolutely turned Sauce Gardner inside out in this game. Obviously, the stat line shows that. I loved it. Every time he caught a pass, he was looking at Sauce Gardner's way. Sauce Gardner was 100% on Stephon Diggs, and there's no debating who won the contest between Sauce Gardner and Stephon Diggs out there. Stephon Diggs absolutely just taught Sauce Gardner that it showed Sauce Gardner that he needs to kind of look at some game film and figure out how to cover a guy like Stephon Diggs. Of course, it's very tough to cover a guy like Stephon Diggs because his caliber of play is so high. A couple more comments, and then we'll kind of wrap this up with a little thought about next week. Wowza said Benford with an amazing TD save to Breece Hall. Yes. Benford just did not give up on that play, showed his speed, caught up to Breece Hall. That was a solid play. I've got my player of the game, I guess you could say, coming up here. And Dan says, yeah, that same type of fumble the first time Buffalo played Jets last year at the line. He did not learn from it. Yeah, he's, that was the knock on him in his rookie year is he couldn't hang on to the ball. I mean, the guy fumbled, I think, 14 times his rookie season for the Bills. So, you can keep saying that Josh Allen is like a Brett Favre, and Brett Favre was a gunslinger, and Brett Favre turned the ball over. But Brett Favre also had a Super Bowl, win. He's got a ring, and he's an MVP. So I don't care how good Josh Allen can be until he stops turning the ball over. He is not worth the accolades of being a top 5 quarterback, in my opinion, right now. After this game, again, top defense, probably the best defense in the league. So you have to keep that in mind. Okay, my top player. Okay, before I give you my top player of the game, well, I'll do one on offense and one on defense. The one on offense is, to me, very obvious. One on offense, one on defense. In the chat, tell me right now who you think is the top performer for the Bills on offense. Tell me who you think the top performer is on defense, and then I'll tell you mine. We'll see if we all have the same names in mind, and then we'll call this debacle. We'll put this debacle to bed. I'm going to go to bed so I can go to sleep. But yeah, your top offensive player and your top defensive player, and then I'll give you mine in a second. Looking ahead to the Raiders, it's not going to. You know how it is for Bills fans. You know how it is for me I'll be past this by tomorrow evening. Tomorrow evening, Tuesday, I'll be looking, or I should say Wednesday, I'll be looking ahead to the Raiders game. 0-1, we weren't going to go undefeated. We all know that, right? So let's just get this one behind us. What a disgusting loss to a Zach Wilson-led Jets team, although, this happened last season. Got a new guy in the chat here real quick. JP Maximus says, Josh Allen has seemed out of sorts for a minute now. Someone needs to start asking some questions. Something's up. It's too early to tell because I'll tell you what, if, we were both watching the game, he looked good in the beginning. He was putting the passes on the money. And it looked like it was going to be a blowout. And then, of course, again, when Rodgers went down, it was like, Bills are going to blow this team out. And maybe that's what Josh Allen thought. Maybe he thought this is coming kind of, easy enough where I can just kind of freelance a little bit, do my thing. And, he completes one of those two passes deep that were intercepted for a touchdown or a big play. This is a whole different story. It's a whole different conversation we're having if he just completes one of those two passes. A lot of what ifs. I get it. But all right, Big J says for the offense, Diggs, and for the defense, Floyd. I agree. Floyd had a really good game. I'm going to give you my defensive player of the game. My offensive player of the game is very obvious. Stephon Diggs. How can you not give it to Stephon Diggs? No one else on the offense did anything. I could kind of see why that guy gets so annoyed now. Dan says Milano was excellent. Diggs on offense was great when targeted. And again, Diggs could have had 170 yards receiving, but Josh Allen, for whatever reason, just decides to go in a different direction when Diggs is very obviously open on a lot of plays. Could be interesting to see what Diggs has to say if he's in the press conference. I did hear a little bit of Josh Allen, and he gave the same old, kind of, this sucks. We got to learn from the mistakes we made today. I have to learn from the mistakes. Blah, blah, blah. It's not unlike when you're having a bad relationship with somebody and they keep coming back and telling you, I'm not going to do this to you anymore. I'm going to be good. I'm going to stop, spending money, or I'm going to stop going out late and not telling you where I am. You're like, oh, okay, great. And then they go out and do it again. Tired of that, start walking the talk. That's what Josh Allen has to start doing. He really needs to start making the difference in his game by just being a quarterback. Sometimes you got to play boring football. As they say so often, you just got to take what the defense is giving you. Okay, so we got a couple people that responded to my question. Yeah, my top player on the defense was absolutely Matt Milano. Matt Milano was all over the place, making plays. Of course, he had the interception. He had a sack, I believe. Let me look at the statistics. And he was just all over the field. He had 3 tackles, 5 assists. He had an interception. He did not have a sack. Seems like he did, but he had a big hit. Oh, he had the big hit on Zach Wilson when Zach Wilson scrambled. And I thought there was a chance that Zach Wilson was going to be out after that hit. I thought maybe the concussion protocol people might have, yanked him, but he didn't. So Dan says, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Get a quarterback coach instead of a buddy. Yeah, I hear you, right? So there's work to do. There's work to be done, boys and girls. The Buffalo Bills fall to the New York Jets in overtime 22-16, leaving more questions than answers at this particular time. Poor New York Jets. It really looks like their season has taken a gigantic hit after all that excitement surrounding the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. And it's good for us, honestly. It's going to open up the division. Looks like coming out of week 1, it looks like the Miami Dolphins are going to be the team to beat from here on out, at least after 1 week. So We'll see. We will see. I will be dropping some shorts, doing some fun stuff. I'm not going to be spending a ton of time on the Bills this year. I'll probably do the same thing I did tonight. Get on a little bit before the game, spend some time with you guys after the game, chat up some football, and hopefully we'll have a lot more, conversations that have happiness attached to it than what we are dealing with tonight. Unbelievable. The Buffalo Bills fall to the New York Jets 22-16 in overtime. Just a very disgusting way to start the season. I'll see you guys throughout the week and next week. Go Buffalo.
The Bills make me wanna shout. Kick your heels up and shout. Throw your hands up and shout. Throw your head back and shout. Come on now, the Bills are making it happen now. Stand up now, come on and